been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Do not attempt to adjust this transmission. We have assumed control.
The year is 1980. Music fights for its very survival in an acoustically desolate wasteland man calls automobile. Enter Steve Irby, a man whose love of music helped end this scourge forever and forge a path for modern car audio to follow. A humble musician with a passion for quality sound, Mr. Irby is a man who feels it is his destiny to provide a sanctuary for mobile audio. Welcome. Join us this evening as we venture back to the very night a young Steve Irby gains his inspiration to create the legacy we know today as Kicker Performance Audio. Though he does not realize it now, by this time tomorrow, Mr. Irby will have completed blueprints for the original Kicker and champion the war against mobile audio inequality. Tonight, Mr. Irby's prayers will be answered as he begins his quest into the Q Zone. Kicker L7QB8. With roots dating back to Kicker's inception, Mr. Irby and his team of engineers have achieved an unrivaled level of design and functionality. With extraordinary bass and a minimal footprint, the L7QB8 utilizes a seamless quarter-inch extruded aluminum housing, allowing optimal internal air volume for the subwoofer. This exclusive design provides exceptional strength and stability. Like the original Kicker, the L7QB8 incorporates a unique passive radiator to minimize required airspace while optimizing the efficiency and frequency response of the subwoofer. Opposite the passive radiator, the L7QB8 is equipped with the all-new 8-inch L7 square subwoofer. The 2016 L7 features an aluminum basket for exceptional strength and thinned aluminum heat sinks for efficient heat dissipation. Kicker's blue lace spider, solo cone 360-degree back bracing, and a laser-etched cone brace combine as a single ultra-rigid unit. The result is increased clarity, higher volume, and added reliability. The square cone features over 20% more surface area than round subwoofers. It's attached to a Santoprene surround, then stitched to the cone for long life and durability. This surround features Kicker's patented ribbed corners, which fully dictates cone motion and extends surround life. At the base of the unit, a pair of custom-formed flanges integrate seamlessly with an extremely low-profile mounting system, consisting simply of a mounting plate and bar. Once installed, the overall height of the enclosure is only 9.5 inches. This profile is small enough to work perfectly in countless trucks, sedans, and SUVs. Once again, Kicker sets a new standard with the groundbreaking design and unparalleled performance of the all-new L7QB8.
Flash! This just in. Extra low frequencies detected emanating from the heavens. Saucer-shaped objects confirmed all over the world. Unidentified flying K saucers spotted delivering Kicker's amazing new Comp Q subwoofer. Built for precision, built for abuse, built for the future and benefit of mankind. Kicker's new Comp Q woofer leaves audiences astounded and amazed as it reveals subtleties in their favorite music in a way that is sure to make women blush and grown men cry. The surround features Kicker's variable cross-section high-roll design, allowing extended cone travel and excellent cone control. It's firmly attached to the cone, reinforced with our iconic stitching. Betsy Ross would be so proud. The injection molded solo cone and laser X cone brace combined in a single ultra-rigid unit. Venting in the brace relieves performance-robbing back pressure. All this adds up to very low distortion and amazingly clean low bass. The progressive roll blue lace spider adds even more cone control at maximum excursion. The woven tinsel leads are sandwiched between the spider and the lace for durability and long life and to prosper. The spring terminal's heavy-duty square design accepts wires as big as 8-gauge or two 12-gauge wires for multi-sub installations. The high-temp voice coil is rumored to be spun upon the looms of the gods of polyamide fiberglass, along with a reinforced former for high strength and power handling. Now, add colossal magnets, plus a cavernous bump back plate, an extended pole piece created in a single forging, the likes that haven't been seen since the creation of Poseidon's trident. And the result is a driver with superior control and effective heat dissipation that extreme performance demands. The all-new Kicker Comp Q is designed from the ground up to deliver everything you demand from a premium subwoofer. High output, deep, powerful, accurate bass, remarkably small enclosure requirements, stunning good looks, and not to mention the ability to frighten small children when turned up to 11. So there you have it. The all-new Kicker Comp Q subwoofer. Another zenith of innovation and epic majesty from Kicker.
I built my first speaker to be louder. I was playing in a band and the drummer played so loud and the keyboard that I had wouldn't play very loud, and I went to my dad and said, I need a bigger speaker. It's a Fender Bandmaster, it costs $300. He dropped the newspaper. It said $300. Yeah, but he didn't say no. He said, is it something that we could build? And so that's how I got started building speakers. The thing that I love to see is a product that we made and get to stand back kind of anonymously and watch somebody take a look at it, listen to it, and go, wow. I think that's what really lights my fires, to make products that people enjoy and have fun with. As time went on, I heard people say, you know, Kicker's like a family. I actually didn't set out to do that. I thought it sounded kind of hokey. I thought they were insincere and just saying that. After a few years, I realized, yeah, maybe that's what we've got. And that's the key, is the good people on your team in the band that makes the band really great. Well, I think Kicker is primarily a lifestyle company. That's a little backwards of where I started. I thought we were a technology company, and We would make great products, but as time went on, realized that it's about people and helping people to enjoy their life and what they do. And that's what I do, too. So share the love a little bit, I guess.
Good evening, everyone. This is Kip Litzy coming to you live, Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's Kicker Unmasked Weekly, the first show of 2021. I hope everyone had a fantastic year. I'd like to introduce a special guest on this side of the fence that's going to be joining us this evening. This is my good friend, John Myers. How you doing, John?
Doing good, Kip. Happy New Year to you and everybody out there.
Happy New Year to you as well, John. You know, we did take a short break. Our last show was right before Christmas there. We had a great special Christmas message from Steve Irby. We had a lot of great giveaways. It was a great way to end the year. I don't know about you, John, but I was ready to kick 2020 out the door.
Yeah, it couldn't come soon enough as far as I was concerned.
So, you know, we've got a great show planned for you tonight. We've actually got some fantastic guests. I think you're going to really like what we got going on, what we're going to talk about here in tonight's show. It's really going to be about some history of kicker, how some guys got their start, and some really cool enclosure design topics I think are going to be fantastic, both coming from John, our Mr. Man of Mystery, Dr. 12 Volt himself, and then some special guests. If you've seen any of the previews running out there, the commercials for this, you know who's joined us here tonight. We'll get to them in just a second. But real quick, if I could, Tim, will you put up on the screen, and Bill, if you don't mind throwing into the feed there, we are doing one of our kind of present to win contests here this evening. We're going to give away some of these Kicker Unmasked Live event t-shirts, and that's going to be running from right now until 8:30. At 8:30 Central Time, which is the time zone we're at, so that's where our reference is, we will be pulling the plug on that contest, we'll be pulling the winners, and we'll be announcing the winners right at the end of the show. So it's basically http:// kicker.fun box talk. And I know Bill, our social guy, he's going to post that in the comment feed, so you've got it right there. And it'll be up on the screen multiple times. We're going to keep reminding you that contest is going on. But we're going to get into the habit, I think, of doing a lot of these little contests actually live right here on the show, because it's actually a nice reward for all of you who choose to tune in and watch the show here on Tuesday night. So we're going to get in that habit. So if you're here and you're watching, we're going to do a lot more of these contests where we're just doing them in the show. Now, we're going to do bigger contests, too, where they cover a longer period of time. Like, I know you watched, John, the big giveaway we did with Derek Williston and Robert and Brandon from D&B Sales.
Amazing. That was awesome.
Yeah, doing that whole quad box thing, that was very...
Install and the whole system. Wow.
Exactly.
Hey, we got a laptop here. Can I register to win that T-shirt, too? Since I don't
yeah,
have one?
you can register all you want, John. Hey, Tim, be sure to pull his entry out. Thank you, sir. You're not allowed.
I figured.
So, tonight's episode, we do have John here. I wanted to bring John on board. John and I, and we'll save the real story for another show, but John and I have a long history here at Kicker.
That's a whole show in itself.
It is a whole show in itself. John and I were actually hired on the same day here at Kicker.
For the same job.
For the same job.
And we're still here.
and unbeknownst to either one of us, they were only trying to hire one guy, and so they had to play, I guess, short man straws, and I guess we both won.
Kicker lost and we won.
Yeah, that's a true story. But if there's anyone I know on this side of the fence that has as much knowledge about car audio as I feel like I do, because I've been playing with it since literally about the age of 12, and I know, John, you started off very young as well.
Many, many years ago.
Yeah, it's not really a job to us on a daily basis. We have a lot of fun doing this. So
That's a job, we wouldn't be here now.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, 5 o'clock came and went a while ago. We would have been gone.
All right. Do not, guys and gals, don't let John make you feel bad. He's here late on Tuesday night. He had himself some Roadhouse steak. So
yeah, and it was good.
So don't even let him play you on that one. He got fed well. Everybody here in the studio, Sandy, Tim, we're actually missing Ernie tonight, so we're probably going to have a great production tonight, because with Ernie out of the way, we can actually get stuff done and get it done right. So with that said, John's here. We're going to have him to actually give us some feedback and commentary on some of the topics we're going to have. But first, I'd like to introduce the guests that we have join us tonight so we can get some open discussion going on. I hope you're as excited to see these guys join us as I am, because it was really exciting to know they were willing to come spend some time on the show. And the first one I want to bring on board, it's kind of his fault why we got the first two guests to come in and want to join us. I'm going to do some kind of reverse order, and that would be Mr. Steve Barber. Steve, would you like to come up on the screen and join us here? There he is.
Hey,
Steve Barber, how you doing this evening?
Good. How are you, Kip?
We are doing quite well. Hey, Sandy, can you turn the volume up for me a little bit on the main output back there? I can barely hear him.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, that's better.
Testing.
That's
better.
There you go. That's a whole lot better. Yeah, I can hear you good right now. Thank you. So, Steve, obviously, we'll talk a little bit about what you going on first before we bring the other two guests. We actually have a relationship with you that goes back probably 3.5 years now, I think, is the first time I actually met you in person. And the best way to have a relationship like that, honestly, we've had the chance to break bread, as I like to say. We've been to some great hibachi restaurants. We've shared some drinks. We've had some good times out there on the road when we could travel and get out to this big, glorious world. And, you kind of dipped your toe in the water, so to speak, I'll say. You actually went ahead and used a bunch of Kicker amplifiers in your big Move Air build that you had. And you're in the process now, people who follow on social media, you're in the middle right now of doing another major rebuild on that vehicle. Is that not correct?
Yeah. So originally we had the 615s in there with the 12 2400s. It was one per coil. And then we gutted that and basically put steel everywhere, steel cage, steel plate, getting ready for the new solo subs, or the L7Xs. There we go. But yeah, we're going to go with a fourth order. We're just kind of waiting on specs. Wink, wink. But I know how that goes. I know. But once we have specs, yeah, we're gonna go with a big fourth order in there. It should be pretty loud. I mean, I'm hoping to do somewhere in the 170 range, under 40 hertz.
That's going to be fantastic. It's an extensive project. I mean, I've been following it online, and obviously you've been sharing some pictures with me on the personal side, personal messages, send me stuff. It's a fantastic build. I think you're building an armored vehicle. It doesn't look like a car anymore. It looks more like an armored tank.
That's what it's going to take to contain those.
Probably.
Well, it's kind of crazy because the way our community's gone in the last year, really, it's gone pretty crazy. I mean, if you're not steel caging it now on a big build, you're just not doing it. So you pretty much have to go this route. I just figured if we're going to go this far, we might as well go as far as we can and go with the steel plate and just kind of skip wood altogether.
And for the record, people out there watching, I did not slip Steve a $50 bill to wear a kicker shirt. He just chose to wear that tonight. It's kind of interesting. He's got one popped up there. So props out to that, Steve. Thanks for wearing the brand.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So this actually started as a discussion last year. It seems so long ago, but it was literally last year. And Steve and I got into a discussion about bringing in who we felt were a couple of guys who would be really fun to have on the show and talk about box design and kind of their history and audio and things they got involved with. And that's how we reached out to the two gentlemen I'd like to introduce next. And Steve is the gentleman who put us in touch with them. So I'm going to introduce the two guests. We'll get them on here, and then we'll just kind of do an open session right here, get some things out. So the next gentleman I'd like to introduce, maybe some of you know him. He has a habit of wearing his beard a certain shade of purple. And, I figured new year, new beard, so I quit shaving 5 days ago. So at least I had some stubble on my face so I wouldn't feel out of place with Steve, much less John. Yeah, well, true. I could just pull it off and put it here. And if I could do that, I'd put it on top of my head.
Yeah, you and me both.
But I'd like to introduce Mr. John Nolte. John, would you like to come up on the screen? Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
How you doing, John? Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Doing great, man. Doing great. This is awesome.
I know we'll get into it. I want to give you a chance to give a little bit of background about your fun with car audio, what you got pulled into it. I know you and our next guest actually had some interesting stories about your first use with Kicker branded products, and I'm sure we'd love to hear that story from you as well. But I want to touch on something real quick. I know you're getting a lot of notoriety right now because you're when I say building, I should use the word fabricating. You are hand fabricating a Roto subwoofer, and the last little video I saw from you, because I follow the stuff too, don't get me wrong, I'm a nut job too, I follow all these other social media feeds and things going on, but you're breaking glass in your house now, aren't you?
Yeah, that was wasn't expected, actually. I didn't realize I did a video. I was like, wow, my windows are moving. And then I went outside to see how loud it was outside for my neighbors, and then I noticed, up on the top, it was just a big crack, so yeah.
So you're making some product that is doing some serious low frequency output, obviously, to do what you're doing there. Because your enclosure, you showed me, we talked about it. It's actually a closet in your room. Is your sub enclosure?
Yeah. It's just that closet actually has rock wool all inside of it, and it's actually for testing speakers. It's really not the enclosure for the Roto sub. It's for testing small parameters on drivers and other box designs and stuff like that. But it was easy enough for me to just put it in there, make it like infinite baffle, so I could do a test. But, once you start messing with the volume, you're like, whoa, that sounds pretty good. Let me turn it up a little bit more. And as things start moving, you're like, well, now it's not really a test room. And now I'm like starting to really crank it up. So, but this is definitely not one of my designs. So I just want people to understand that. I'm just building a bigger and meaner one of these Roto subs.
Well, you may be working off someone else's design or standing on the shoulders of others for greatness, but the bottom line is you are hand fabbing this entire thing up. You're fabricating it, machining it, and it is pretty interesting to watch you do this. So I want to give you props out to that. I didn't know if you'd get the chance to talk about that or you wouldn't want to, but I wanted to call you out on that because it's pretty amazing what you're doing.
Oh, no, we can definitely talk about it if we want to talk about it. It's pretty much open book.
All right, awesome. And then our final guest that's joining us this evening, I want to get him up on the screen so we can all make fun of each other. That'd be Mr. Bobby Gately from Gately Audio. I think a lot of people in the feed probably know who Bobby is, know Bobby Gately. Bobby, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited, and I'm distracted by my phone going off at the same time. I apologize. But
it happens.
But yeah, super stoked about being on the show.
When I reached out to Steve and I said, I was looking for a couple guys who were kind of, more in the community as far as the kind of the extreme application of what guys are doing in vehicles, and not just vehicles, because I know John, his real background, Nelson and Pass, you grew up around Nelson and Pass, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, I lived up in Forest Hill, Todd Valley area, where I lived, not that far away from Nelson Pass, from Pass Labs, Threshold back then. That's what, that it used to be called. But yeah.
So he obviously, it's kind of funny. I started off kind of on the car side of things at a very young age, and I've gravitated. I still enjoy car. I love doing car audio, but probably my biggest passion now is home theater and home audio video, which I guess the good news, bad news is you can spend just as much, if not more money, but you got a bigger box to play in. So it can be a little easier. You can get behind the walls and above the ceiling to do some work, but I fully understand you coming from that background, because there is just the impact that you get in a high performance car audio system. You can live that same experience from a movie standpoint. And when things blow up when I'm watching a movie, I want to feel things blow up. That's how I like to listen to a movie in my house. So
they used to call that sense around back in the 70s.
Sense around. And then I'm gonna bounce back to Bobby, and I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, Bobby, because you shared part of a story with me earlier today, and I'd like for you to kind of recap that. Is how did you get into audio, and what was your influences to get you where you are today? Because obviously you're making some fantastic enclosures from not just a qualitative standpoint, but from looks, cosmetics, performance. But I know you've been in this for over 30 years. What got you into this, and why?
Well, I had a friend of mine that was a little older than me, and he got his first car, and his name's Jason Paulovich. He's a super close friend of mine. And actually, there's one more piece of that puzzle that I didn't bring into this, but he is still to this day, every audio system I built for him is all kicker, all the way through every time. Except for now he'll be running Gately products, but other than that, it's all been kicker. So, so anyway, Jason got his first car, and he had a couple of kicker subwoofers, and I built the first box for him, the first ever speaker box I'd ever built, and it was a mess. It was awful, but it was built to the sealed box specifications, and then we played around later, and I built another box for those same subs, and it was the ported box that was in the manual that came with the drivers. And then later on, I got my own kicker subwoofers, and I wanted to build a band pass, because I had seen these boxes like at the flea market, and they were those funky fourth order boxes, but I'd heard a couple, and they were, boomy and loud, and it was exciting, and I didn't know crap. And there was a phone number for Kicker Stillwater Designs on the instruction manual, and I called that number, and I got somebody in tech support. I believe her name was Lori. And
Lori Boyer,
still here.
That's amazing. She was so awesome to me. I spoke to her probably hundreds of times, if I'm not mistaken, over the years. I would call one day, and then the next, and then the next. And I remember one time, she, "Are you building all of these?" And I'm like, "Yep." And she's like, "Cool. I'm gonna fax you over all these designs. Build them away, And she gave me a design, and I like remember the specifications for that enclosure still to this day, because I built it over and over and over again for numerous, the beginning of customers. And it was a fourth order band pass for 2 kicker comp 12s, and it was outstanding over and over and over again. And one of the things that Lori said to me in probably that first conversation was, here's this design, and here's another one, and here's another one, but this one here we have built and tested and confirmed that it performed really well. And that meant a lot to me, more than I even realized at the time. I went, well, I'm going to go with what I know, and if the people at Kicker say this one works, then I'm for sure going to build that. And then over time, I even built a few that they had not tested, trying things out, playing around. And some of them didn't perform as well. Some of them performed really well in certain areas, and I kind of gave a little bit of feedback. I think that was useful, maybe. But and over the years, over several years, because I put myself through college to be a computer network engineer, building speaker boxes in my friend's lawn, and a lot of that was me communicating with Lori at Kicker and getting enclosure designs from her for numerous Kicker subwoofers, because my friend's shop that would help us out and sell us product, he was a Kicker dealer. So anyway, it was a really good experience, and I learned a lot about how much testing goes into products at Kicker, and I learned the value in testing everything at every angle possible, and I mean all the way down to they were building boxes so that were outside of the norm of what people would do, just so you guys could have better customer support for some goofy 19-year-old kid with a skill saw on his buddy's lawn making a mess. It made it really no-brainer for me to almost always insist on using Kicker products, because I knew the product so well, and I knew that I could get such incredible support. So lots and lots of years of Kicker for me.
I want to call out, maybe if Sandy will get it, there's a comment over here from Williston Audio Labs. I'd like her to put that up on the screen right there. Pop that one up, if you won't mind. Yeah, throw it up. So obviously, Big D's in the house. He's giving you a shout out there. The acrylic box Bobby built me is incredible. This dude has skills. I think that is a very true statement. And of course, it's already went through, so I'm not going to ask him to go find it. But Derek also made a comment when you were talking about building the box. He said that the old gold letter comps, and that was probably the woofer you're talking about that you were using, were those.
Yes. Yeah. The first ones I had were those gold letter comps. They were like used, and then somebody had extracted them from their audio system and put them back in the boxes they came in. I mean, Jason was 15 years old, and he was able to get his driver's license a little bit early in California because his mom is blind, and his dad had passed away when he was young, so he was able to get his driver's license early. So he's driving around in his '65 Mustang. I mean, it was a custom box, but man, it had like silicone oozing out the sides, and it was a big mess. But he had some beat, and it was really cool. And it was a really cool experience to acquire these, legendary. And they're double stitched, and we were like, yeah, double stitched, and we didn't know what we were looking at. It was a crazy, strange time, and it was very exciting for us as young men to get into car audio,
It's funny you say that, but back, I got into it in the early 80s, and obviously being through it in the 80s and in the early 90s, even the mid 90s, car audio then was way different than it really is today. It was a different experience. People had a different reaction to it. And before it gets too far, I want to just call him out. We got Robert from DMB, or Brandon, I may have missed. It was Robert or Brandon, one of the two, had a call out here. There he is, Robert. First off, I got to give a shout out to Robert, because Robert and Brandon from DMB Sales, they actually contributed to the quad box giveaway we did, and they're actually participating in the show, which I'm impressed, because I can tell them much better things to do on a Tuesday night than watch me or him. Yeah. But hey, Robert, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your store participating in that giveaway. That's fantastic. And yeah, you're right, those boxes are sexy. I think Robert actually uses one of your boxes, if I am not mistaken, on his stuff.
We've got a few enclosures out to them. One big, crazy custom one for 415s, and they modified one of my production 4.75 boxes and put a couple of Kicker squares in it. They just cut the holes to be squares, and the specs happen to pan out really well with those drivers. And they're kind of a dealer of the product. They've sold a few of my enclosures, so yeah.
So how did you, Mr. Gately, get introduced to or have a relationship with Mr. Steve? And I got to call it out because it was in the comment feed. It's Steve, not the barber, apparently from the beard. So Steve, not the barber. How did you and Steve get connected?
Shoot, I can't remember which event it was. It may have been Sky High Barbecue. That was the first time I met Steve in person. I had already been wearing his shitting on him shirts and hats and things of that nature, because I thought it was awesome and hysterical. And we got to hanging out, and I got a demo in his truck, I think possibly the first time at the barbecue. And then and then any other event that I would attend, I would spend a little time with Steve and Hammy, his partner, and those guys are a lot of fun. They're a good time. So yeah, it was just big events that we attended, and I think I think I pulled up in the first time we had the Green Monster at an event, and I'd already known Steve for some time, but I had walked away, and when I came back, there was like 3 big neon green shitting on them stickers on the truck that I think Steve and Hammy had kind of just snuck onto the thing, and I was like, cool, it's right where I want them. It's perfect.
So obviously you have a history. You started working with kicker gear a long time ago. Sounds like probably 30 years ago or around that time frame is when you actually got introduced to using kicker products, and obviously fueled your passion to do what you do today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was, I was pretty handy with woodworking tools because I helped my stepdad with lots of stuff, projects, because he would build stuff for my mom all the time and build the deck and remodel this part of the house, and he was a crafty guy, and I was just following him around helping, and because he would buy me video games and RC cars, and I had pretty good technical from working on RC cars, and then my dad had built show cars for years, and so he had this amazing Corvette, and he had paint skills and mechanic skills and understood electrical, so I picked up a lot of all of that. So car audio and 12 volts was pretty straightforward to me. And when my buddies wanted stuff and they would start in on working on things, I would see the mess they might be about to make or potential dangers with using the power tools, and I would step in and become the operator. And I've sometimes been a bit overly critical about quality level of how things get done, and even at a young age I was a little bossy and pushy, and sometimes that worked out for great results. Sometimes it caused some friction between me and my buddies that wanted to get it done, but I would work pretty relentlessly to help conquer projects, and at 15, 16, 18 years old and on, and even in the last couple of years, I've had the sun's coming up, and like we're almost ready to turn it on. Let's just keep going, and it's kind of been a thing. So yeah, but with some support from Kicker and really specifically Lori directly. I spoke to her so many times, and she was always happy to help me and give me all of the information I asked for, and I would, what is happening in there that causes that to work like that, and why is it better in this vehicle and not in that vehicle, and she kind of breaks down layman's terms a little bit so I understood, and it made it really simple for me. Hey Lori,
that's great.
Hi.
That's awesome.
And now I saw her face that big on my screen the first time, and I haven't talked to her in probably 20 years or so. But she was an awful lot of help to me, and made it a lot easier for me to aim in that direction to use Kicker products, because I had such incredible support every time. There was always somebody there to help me when I was asking about boxes, and there's other companies that have pretty good product support, but I don't think anybody ever matched that, and that's the model that I try to follow when customers contact me. I try to make sure I answer every question and give all the pertinent detail possible, and it seems to be working out and paying off pretty well for me at this point. So I appreciate all of those lessons at every angle.
I think it's working out really well for you. And one of the comments that went by kind of reminded me to say something that Sandy backstage cued me on. Is someone said, how do I get one of those button-up shirts? Well, one of two ways. First off, stay tuned in to Kicker Unmasked Live on a weekly basis, because we're always giving stuff away, whether it's some swag, whether it's actual product, whether it's big bundle giveaways. If you've seen the pattern we have going on here, we are doing things to give back to the community right here on Kicker Unmasked Live weekly. So follow the channel, tune in every Tuesday, you might get one for free. The other way is Sandy wanted me to let everyone know that all the swag we talked about on the last show last year, it seems funny to say last year, really? 3 weeks ago, all that product that we showed and discussed is now up on the website. So if you need to purchase some of that swag, go ahead and hit kicker.com, go up to the top, you can see a spot there where we have a link for all the shirts and hats and things like that. You can find it, click it down there, and all that stuff is now up and available. So all the new stuff Sandy talked about, we now have it up and live and ready to go. So we're glad that that's happened, because sometimes it's not until a few more months into the year before we get that new stuff up online, and she was kind of the bull cracking the whip on that one, and she got it all up there, got it going. So
she's awesome.
We have a couple people down the Stillwater Medical Center, but they're going to heal. Don't worry about it. And Sandy had a really good time. She only used one arm. She tied one behind her back, so they at least had a chance. So they know they just need to do what she tells them from now on.
Still no contest.
Still none. So, but with that said, I want to shift over to John. Bobby has an interesting story about how he got into audio. John, what got you into all this, and what's been your experience with products? I know you said you had an interesting story about kicker gear as well.
Yeah, so it was probably like 1992. I started trying to design speakers and stuff like that. And actually a little bit before that, I was into more of electronics in high school. And I kind of started hearing bass around. I was actually at school. I was on the school bus, and it just started shaking the bus. And I was like, what is that? I remember that was the first time I heard bass, and it was inside the school bus. So it was like resonating. And so I found out what it was, and one of my buddies was into like kicker audio, and he had 2 kicker 18s, and Travis Warwick, I totally remember him. And he had a little tracker, this little bitty thing, and he built a band pass for it. And I was like, what do you do? And so he kind of taught me some little things, and I just kind of went off from there and got some old school kicker 12s with the gold, with the stitch, and had those for a while, and I got 2 extra ones, and I sent them out to get them reconed. And Kicker sent back brand new ones, like with the inverted dust cap with the red and white logo and everything on them. So I was able to use those, and I used those Kicker 12s, and then I bought 2 Kicker 8s and built a wall in my mom's Isuzu Trooper for my senior project. That was 1995. And I did the evolution of car audio. And that was my first experience dealing with like kicker. But there's one other little thing that I think was the bigger thing that made this grow for myself was growing up at Auburn Cartoons in Auburn, California. I was the kid who always went to the stereo shop, drooling, touching the speakers, playing with the stereos. And then I would go out in the back because I was into designing the stuff. Yeah. And so they all knew me, And so Ron came up to me, and I just recently saw him just a little while ago, a couple of months ago, actually. It was really nice. And he gave me this document. He brought it out, and he says, I think you would like this. And it was a document from a college that took 2 Kicker 10s, Comp 10s, and they built a Enclosure. And the Enclosure was called a Labyrinth Enclosure. And they took this Enclosure, and they basically were able to produce low frequencies in the lab, like 130 dB at almost, I think it was like 5 watts, something really, really low. And I was just calculating and going, okay, cab gain if I do this. And so I met up with one of my friends, and we built one of those boxes. And that box got me into like all the math, figuring out, phase response, gain, why is this canceling? Oh, wow, I just blew that up. I mean, I've had so many failures to grow from this stuff, but that was the thing that pulled me towards, and it was all through Kicker. And I was literally, right before we were starting here, I was trying to find that document. I have that document, but I think it's in the safe. It's actually in the safe.
So John, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to throw this up there. There's someone just posted a comment. I think it's Jess Ika. Says, I was like 4 in 1995. You guys are the OGs of bass.
Really were.
I read that line. Of course, I'm going to throw this in there. There's one of my favorite movies to watch at this time of year. Of course, I've already watched it twice, and that's Die Hard. And, in the world, there's only 2 groups of people. There are those people who who insist Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and then there's no people who are wrong. But other than that, it's really okay. And when I read something like that, I'm always reminded of that scene in the helicopter where the two Johnsons are up there flying around the building, and the one guy talks about, man, doesn't this remind you of Vietnam? He's like, Vietnam? I was in high school. So it's to see someone post a comment to put in perspective that, a lot of us have been through a lot of things, and they weren't even around or were so young they don't even know what we're talking about.
We've definitely been around for a while.
Yeah,
seen it come and go, and
yeah, between John and I, they should name an island after us, I think.
On a side note, I think it's kind of funny that Ernie's not here, but he's here.
Yeah, by the way, Ernie, what are you doing here? Get out of here. You're not even supposed to be in the building.
Go enjoy your day.
It's kind of funny. Ernie's he's normally the guy behind the controls running everything, and so we had to do a crash course with Tim. So our camera guy, Tim, who's normally out here running the cameras, he's actually back behind the switcher, and he's doing all the video editing tonight. And of course, Ernie, it's like Dad giving the keys to the 16-year-old for the first time, and it's just, I've caught him on the phone twice today. It's like, okay, do this, do this, do this, and if you get into this problem, and hey, I can FaceTime you if you need me. I can be there for you, and I can walk you through this. And what Ernie didn't know is that Tim and I are both sitting here. Tim's holding his phone out like this, and Tim and I are going, we got this, go away. So, Ernie probably doesn't appreciate that we feel like we don't need him here, but we're working him out of a job apparently. So we'll look forward to seeing Ernie back, but of course he has got to get in the feed here and let us know what's going on. So obviously there's a lot of experience in these 4 boxes of windows. I mean, guys, if you look at it seriously, there's hundreds of years of experience sitting here in these 4 boxes when it comes to working with subwoofer enclosures. And what's interesting is there seems to be a common thread that if you go back, everyone kind of was attracted to this at the young age. And I'll share a quick story with you to kind of show you the nut job that I am. Is my first stereo system that I built that was high performance. Everyone here remember riding on the school bus back and forth to school in junior high and high school? So back in my day, we had, boom boxes. Everyone had, the boom boxes. And we all had our boom boxes. And on the school bus, we would actually have contests to see whoever had the newest or loudest boom box. And whoever had the loudest boom box at the beginning of leaving the town to go to school, which is about a 17-mile drive, you got to play your boom box for the whole trip. You were the winner, the king of the bus that morning, so you got to play.
You got to control the music.
So, I'd won a few times and lost a few times, and I'd owned a few boom boxes through that year. But I finally got this wild idea. And of course, I grew up in Ohio, so in the winter in Ohio, you're wearing these big, heavy coats. They have big pockets, real big and heavy. And I took my boom box, and I took my boom box apart, and I took the speakers that are in the boom box out. And I can't remember if it was my Panasonic or my Sony boom box, but it was one of those two. And I ended up putting inside of that boom box a pair of Sparkomatic 3-way 6.5-inch car coax speakers. I ended up routing out the plastic in the back to get it to fit around the magnets and doing everything I could, and I got these 6.5-inch big Sparko speakers to fit inside this boom box. And I brought the speaker wires out of the boom box and took speaker wires back into the boom box. Basically, I had an input and an output. And what I did is in my big coat that I had, I put in 2 6-volt lantern batteries, the rectangular lantern batteries. I wired them in series for 12 volts. And I had a Sparkomatic push to turn on 40-watt power booster. And I see you laughing, John, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I remember those.
And so I had this umbilical cord that came out of my coat that went into my boom box. So I get on the bus that morning, and I'm all inside. I'm just grinning into ear to ear because I'm just going to launch this bus. And so we're going through the contest, and everyone's playing their stuff, and it comes to my turn, and I turn it on, and I turn it up, and everyone's like, yeah, but Timmy back there, he's louder. And I just wait, and I smile, and I reach into my pocket, and I push the boost button on the Sparkomatic power booster, and this boom box comes to life and just annihilates the bus. I mean, it's the loudest boom box you've ever heard. Now, there's no bass whatsoever. It's all mid-bass and up, but it is freaking loud.
And the bus driver loved you, right?
The bus driver loved me. But I got to play my boom box all the way to school that day and back, and of course, it was infamous. Now, the only thing I can tell you is, though, 2 lantern batteries don't last very long. You get about 1 bus ride out of it, and you're done. You need new batteries. They didn't last a whole lot. I didn't know people like Travis and knew about lithium batteries, of course, back in that time frame. But
and they weren't rechargeable either back then.
And so that was kind of my first experimental tweak as a young teenager into audio itself. And of course, from that point forward, I was hooked. And I know John's got similar experiences like that.
You talk about boom boxes. One of my buddies in high school had one of the Sharps with a turntable in it.
A turntable?
Yeah, if you look it up online, it's a Sharp boom box with a turntable. It's about this wide, about that deep, and about that tall. And I think it took 16 or 20 D batteries.
Oh, man.
It was crazy.
Energizer and Everready made a fortune on us kids back then.
I don't think we even had Energizer back then. Everready, I think we had those. But
that's like what you asked for in your stocking was as many D batteries as possible.
Exactly.
Yes. You're laughing, Steve, because I know you had a boombox, didn't you? Or do you?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's a bullfrog.
There you go.
0 D battery.
Okay.
What's that?
Didn't you do a test with a bullfrog in your vehicle?
That was actually Carlos. He actually did it with the small bullfrog, the 100, I believe it was.
Yes.
100.
He's got an extreme van, and he put it in there, and I think it did 130 dB at like 65 hertz.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive out of that little cylinder thing.
Yeah, but
There's not a lot there.
that's like a paint can.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. They get loud.
So they do get loud. So I'm going to have John get something queued up here, and I'm going to have Timmy get something queued up for me here. But before we get to that, so what is your plans going forward, John? John, I know you had a car build. I mean, I say car, it was a vehicle build. I saw it out at the Surf City show. That was, I think, 2 years ago, where I got introduced to ketchup and some other things that maybe we shouldn't talk about. I don't know.
That was good.
Yeah, I just, hey, you eat your food your way. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. It's okay.
Coconut shrimp, and put shrimp inside of coconuts, and that's how you grow shrimp, coconut shrimp.
Yeah, we
You
learned
breed
that
them
out on
inside
the
a
Oregon
coconut.
coast.
Inside joke.
It's a very inside joke, but it worked at that time. That, or I had a little too much liquid courage to get into that. But either way, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so the Blazer build, is that what you're talking about up at Surf City?
Yeah, I know. I think you sold that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And now we have the bread truck. So that's the next new big build. Still working on some DMV stuff, but that's almost done, and we're going to start building that up to put the rotosub in. It's going to be built just like a tank. It's all steel inside, and it's just an enclosure to hold the enclosure, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And,
so that's the next project you're working on then. So this rotosub, and I didn't see it, so this rotosub you're working on is actually for this bread truck build that you're doing then.
Yeah, that was the main reason why I bought the bread truck, because this was a goal for me, a project that I've always wanted to build. So, so the bread truck, the design aspect of it is going to be a 6th order Fed series labyrinth. So basically the rear chamber, instead of being a ported enclosure series, it's actually a quarter wave labyrinth that's tuned around about 23 hertz. So we'll get a quarter wave out of that. So that's why there's the bread truck. We need a lot of volume and a lot of mechanical gain. We're using this as a large mechanical amplifier. So when we put amplifiers on it, we're not drawing tons of current, tons of power all the time, so I can demo, for the whole show.
Right. Something I want to touch on there when you said that, and it makes me think about it, is you brought up mechanical efficiency. You brought up using mechanics to get efficiency. Yeah. And the one thing, John and I have dealt with this for years. Obviously, we've been associated with Kicker the brand directly for 25 years. Prior to that, I was actually an independent rep, and one of the lines I represented was Kicker. And then prior to that, I probably 6 or 7 years in retail with Kicker products at that point. So I have a long history with Kicker products, both working for the brand and working at a retail store. And the one thing that I can say, even from my retail days, when the guys who used to be the Johns and Kips of that time would come into the stores and train us, is they always focused on that, Kicker drivers are built all around the game of efficiency. Kicker drivers are about being efficient. And, I'll take this one out of the equation. Let's not talk about the L7X because that's a different animal. But, taking that one out of the equation, that's really Steve Irby's game, and having the opportunity to work directly with Steve for so many years. I mean, he's driven home the point that it's about balance, that just throwing a bunch of triple stack magnets on something doesn't mean you're going to have a lot of BL or motor force in the gap, and there's all sorts of things that go into balancing how a driver performs. And the one thing that I can say with pretty much an air of confidence, and I don't mean to be anything other than confident, is when it comes to efficiency, Kicker drivers are designed to be very efficient drivers. They're not designed that you have to have a lot of power to get a lot of great bass out of them. You can put lots of power into them if you want, but you get a lot of power out of them. And that kind of goes back to what you were talking about, the guys using the C10s and doing what they were doing with just 5 watts of power. Now, of course, they used a box design to maximize low frequency out of that, but it really focuses on what we design subs to do, which is be efficient so that you don't have to have a ton of power to get great bass.
Correct. And the other thing that I try to tell a lot of people is you want to reach, like when you're designing an enclosure, you want a best of both worlds from how wide your bandwidth is. So wherever you're tuning it at, you want your mechanical limit and your power limit to basically meet there. So you get full efficiency and you get full mechanical ability of that driver. And you know, the mechanical amplifier, the enclosure, is the foundation. So you can have a super expensive subwoofer out there, the best in the world, and if you put it in an improper enclosure, it's going to sound like garbage. Now you can take a really inexpensive, really cheesy driver and put it in a really nice enclosure and blow away a lot of other speakers that are in mediocre enclosures. So that was one of the main things that I look at. So
well, you know, you say that, and of course, all joking aside, Steve is over there, besides Steve Barber needing the barber, besides him drooling at the cutaway, the L7X, and besides him wanting teal small parameters of the L7X, we're closer, Steve. We're a lot closer. We're almost there.
Hell yeah.
We're almost there. You know, Steve's going to go the opposite direction, where he's going to throw too much power into these and try to find how to break these and do stuff in that thing he's building, which I've affectionately nicknamed the tank, because as much metal plate and steel that I've seen go into that thing, how does it even drive itself, Steve?
I don't know. The first time we backed it out of the shop the other day, it was making a funny noise. There's something going on with one of the wheel bearings, but
it's probably saying I quit.
On and off the trailer and around the show lot a little bit. So whatever, as long as it moves, we're good.
As long as it moves, you just need to get it on, because it's going to be a trailer queen, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no seats in it. There's no seat belts. The dash is gone, but it's probably more safe, honestly, if I got in a car accident with this thing than being in a regular car. But yeah, it's not street legal, so it's a trailer queen, and it's purpose built. You know, I mean, the way equipment is built now, you have to build these cars like this, or they just fall apart. You can't keep them together.
They're not made for it.
So you in order to get full potential out of the equipment, we kind of have to do this now. But I'm okay with it.
Well, I know you are, because it's your build that you're doing, but I know I'm excited, and when we finally get to the point that we're going to see, you know, this type of gear going in your vehicle, I'm going to find a ticket to Vegas, because I got to come check it out in person. You know that. Plus, we got some bread to go break.
Yeah. I'll leave a couple screws for you to screw in.
Perfect. That's at least I'll feel like I did something instead of nothing. That'll be perfect. You know, Bobby, over here real quick. You and I kind of touched on this earlier, and I want to give you a chance to talk about this. So obviously, you're designing a lot of these enclosures for sale, obviously, but you're not selling the enclosures directly yourself. You're actually running these through another company. Is that correct?
Well, Sky High Car Audio is a partner company. They're my main distributor, and they have direct sales off of their website, and they have a dealer program where they are a distributor, and we have several dealers across the nation that are purchasing products. And what's amazing about Sky High and well, especially for me, what's amazing about our relationship is they keep several of each model enclosure that we manufacture in stock. So they have hundreds of our enclosures in stock right now, and they sell several of them a day. I don't have the physical space to keep that kind of inventory, and there'd be no way I could keep up with building 6, 8, 10, 15 enclosures a day, building all the different random models. So when I get an order that comes in, or a dealer gets an order that comes in that I don't, well, if I get an order that comes in that I don't happen to be in the middle of building, then I just buy it back as a dealer from Sky High, and they drop ship it for me. And Sky High makes a small portion off of each dealer, as any distributor should. and Gately Audio, as a dealer of Sky High products, is able to purchase product back. And then I also we go up every 2 to 3 weeks and bring as little as 50 or 60, but sometimes upwards of 100 enclosures every 2 to 3 weeks up there to Sky High, and we pull up the trailer and open that thing up, and a team of guys come out and unload it and stack everything, and we account for it all, and it's an amazing relationship, and we John Raby at Sky High, he'll go, hey, we get a lot of requests for, something for this application, and I'll, put that into development, and I'll build and test a product, and then we, take a couple photos of it, and my amazing wife will put it up on our website and help out with getting the information over to the guys at Sky High, and boom, it's available on all angles. So, the guys at Sky High are a big, huge help with what we do. We wouldn't be doing this without them, and I think he's super happy to have me as a manufacturer that he's representing as well, because we stay on top of our stuff and we stand behind our product, and anytime there's any issues of any kind or questions that arise, we jump right to it and get things taken care of.
Well, it's obvious you make a fantastic product. I've seen some of the stuff out in the wild myself, and when you got people who speak as highly of you as they do, it's very apparent that you make a quality product. And so I do want people to know, if they're looking to get something ready to go now, to reach out to Sky High Car Audio, because that's where they can get your product directly. And then if somebody's wanting something custom, do they contact you directly?
Yes, that would be, go to gatelyaudio.com, send me an email, give me a little bit of your vehicle and subwoofer information, possibly even jump over onto my YouTube channel, and there's a video there on how to take measurements inside of the vehicle to translate, what will fit into your car and into the space where you want to put the subwoofer enclosure, and get me that information, and we can design something special for you. That's where the acrylic boxes come from, or, a custom vehicle and subwoofer specific custom order box comes from and we only provide that direct at this time, because it'd be really challenging to provide that service through another dealer. There'd be too many chains of communication, and there'd be too many hands in the jar financially on something like that, and it would really ruin you're like, oh, I want this fancy box for a single 15, and we get boxes like that are around $1,000, $1,200. If somebody else needed to make some money in that, it would get astronomically expensive really fast and be amazing. So, yeah.
Well, real quick, I'm watching the clock here, because I do try to keep the show to right about 90 minutes. We're still running good on time. I wasn't trying to cut you short there, but just to let everyone out there who's watching know, we are doing a drawing tonight. We're going to be giving away some prizes. It's one of those things, basically, you got to be present to win, because we're going to announce the winners here on the show. So we've got about 10 minutes left on that. If you haven't gone and entered that drawing yet, please take this chance to do so. I'm sure Bill will post that link up again up into the comment feed, and maybe there, we got it up there on the screen. There's actually the link. It's /kicker.fun/box talk. And that's where you can go to register, and that'll get you in the drawing. And we're going to be closing that drawing down at 8:30. We'll be pulling some winners, and we will be announcing those winners at the end of the show. So be sure you go get registered, because we'd love to have you guys have a chance to win something from what we're giving away. And speaking of giveaway, I think I've kind of talked to you a little bit about this, Bobby, but maybe not a lot. So I'm going to have some fun with you and put you on the spot right here. When we get to the point that we have some teal small parameters for these lovely drivers here that Steve would shave to have right now if we could give him those. I think we need to get with you, maybe figure out something, do some kind of a custom box with a couple drivers or something, and do a giveaway with you. What do you think?
Well, that'd be exciting. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Absolutely. I'm into that.
Yeah, we'll give away his labor.
Yeah. But I think we need to get together and do some kind of a cross promotion and do a giveaway. Would you be interested in talking about that a little bit later on down the road? Would people here be interested at a chance to win a Gately box designed around the new L7X subwoofer?
I would.
Yes.
I'll take
Got
two.
a Silverado crew cab.
Well, I'll definitely have John help me with that enclosure design. John has been doing quite a bit of engineering and testing for us at Gately Audio. John's working knowledge of what's happening inside of a subwoofer and an enclosure goes far beyond mine. I would say that my working knowledge is a lot more trial and error and extrapolating from what people significantly smarter than me have done. One of those being my friend with the purple beard. So I would.
You can't miss him. And once you meet John with the purple beard, he is always in your mind, and it's that purple beard. You can't. He's there. Ketchup, coconut shrimp, purple beard. It's John. You can't get away.
So yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm totally into doing something like that, and I'm really excited to play with some of these new products from you guys. When you guys introduced it to us last year at CES, we had a really good time, and I've been really excited to see these things in person. And did you guys know how much beer you guys fed us that night? By the way, it was like, oh, I had so many. And
I do.
wife was like, yes, you
I signed the check.
I
know.
was gonna say, I thought you got the tab for that one.
The tacos were
John and Drew with the race that was like second. I was like, that was amazing.
You know, the thing for me, and I wish, and I don't know if he's in here tonight. Sometimes he pops in, is Jacob Fuller from Sundown. Sometimes he pops into these feeds and watch what's going on. And if he is, or if there's someone, hey, there's Travis Young. Travis might know.
Yeah, Travis.
But there's actually I think it's a bourbon that Jacob is all about. And I actually reached out to Brandon, who obviously is Jacob's right-hand guy. And I said, hey, man, tell me what this bourbon is, because I'd like to have this available, because I know Jacob likes it. And Jacob's coming. Yeah, Jacob came to a private NDA kicker meeting. We invite him. So Jacob Fuller came. He's a blast, by the way. If you ever get a chance to go out and have dinner with Jacob, I highly advise you do it. So I found out what this bourbon, I think it was bourbon if I've got it right. And so I had to go to like 3 liquor stores in Vegas before I found it, but I found it and I bought a bottle of it and I brought it to we brought it to the meeting. It wasn't a party, it was a meeting. And Jacob, when he saw the bottle, he got this smile from ear to ear, and he just went on and on talking about it. And what he wanted to brag about was, he said, you know how a burnt voice coil smells, right, Kip? I go, well, yeah, everyone who's in the industry knows what a burnt voice coil smells like. And he says, the reason I love this bourbon, he says, imagine if you could taste how a burnt voice coil smells. And I'm thinking to myself, first off, why would I want to taste that? But okay, I guess I'm down for the prize. Let's give it a shot. And so he poured him some and poured me some. He said, so take a smell. And I'm like, yeah, it smells just like burnt voice coil. He says, now taste it. I taste it and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly how my mouth tastes after I walk through the R&D department after they smoked a couple subs on a Tuesday. So yeah, this is the exact same. This is how a burnt voice coil would taste if I could put it in my mouth. But he loves this bourbon or whiskey, whichever it might be. You know, Tails a different thing, but the same thing. But it's funny you bring that up, because that party was where I got introduced to the burnt voice coil bourbon, as I like to refer to it as.
Yeah, I drank a lot of that. I kind of forgot that part. It's like, I don't drink very much, but for some reason when I hang out with John Rabby, or when there's just booze around me, I drink quite a bit. That was a long night. I started really late the next day. I don't know if people remember too much, but it was a late start that Saturday morning.
I drank a little too much that night.
I am aware.
Maybe a lot too much. And I had to wake up at 5 in the morning to start preparing for the show, because the CES showdown was Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
We had that party on Friday night. So that was interesting, going to bed at like 4:30 and waking up at 5:30 completely hammered trying to run a car show. But never again.
It was a good time. I'm glad we could kick that off for you on a Friday night.
It was worth it. All my friends in one room at the same time. It was good.
Yeah, so I got a couple of
go ahead.
Topics of box build and design that I would love to discuss with you guys, because you guys are all really smart, and it puts a little bit of people on the spot a bit. There's a couple of subjects that come up a lot of times on the internet chat things where there seem to be some guys that are extremely sure, about certain things that are incredibly important about enclosure design and build properties. And they're kind of pet peeves of mine that drive me bonkers. But one is the guys that just, it has to be tuned at 30 or 32, or to think that it's gonna, have bandwidth into lower frequencies, that's just not gonna produce anything lower than what that tune number is, and that there is no place for it ever to be tuned higher. And the other is the double baffle thing that seems to be a sensitive issue for many internet troll guys that struggle with understanding structural integrity of cabinet structures, right? I want to see what some of your guys' thoughts are on this.
Well, I'm gonna take that and ping pong with John here for a second, if you don't mind on that, because it ties into my favorite meme that I never get tired of, and I'm the kicker guy, is there's wasted information below 40 hertz, or there's no useful information below 40 hertz. And I love that meme because it's completely taken out of context. And what's fun about it, it was actually the first year for the guy who said it. He was a trainer. It was his first CES. He was literally put on the spot. Hey, we got a camera crew here who wants to film something. Go take them out and talk about the new products. And so, new guy, nervous, talking about new products. And what he was really trying to get across to the guy on camera was that this enclosure is tuned to 38 hertz, so it's got really good impact. It's great for musicality. It's got good impact for bass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, in his excitement, the no useful information below 40 hertz came out, which ironically, if you look at music in general, now I'm not talking about rebased or guys trying to play ultra low frequency cards for fun, but if you look at music in general, there's not a lot of useful information below 40 hertz unless you're listening to pipe organs or maybe the 1512 overture or the 1812 overture. There's really not a lot. Yeah, so he was kind of right, but it got taken completely out of context and it's turned into what we have today, which is my favorite meme, is anything to do with below 40 hertz and kicker. I just laugh at every one I see because I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, it just keeps getting our name in front of people, though.
And the thing you bring up there, the first thing I want to address, and I know John will chime in, is first off, everyone, and I know you've run across this, and it's probably the direction you're going, Bobby, is first off, there is no such thing as a perfect box. Every box can be designed for an application. You could look at me and I can tell you that I'm not necessarily a fan of bandpass boxes because for the most part I'm not a bandpass box fan, but at the same time I could tell you a story about I had a customer / friend back in the early 90s who wanted bass in his living room and his wife wouldn't let him have anything in the room. So what I ended up doing is I built him a bandpass enclosure, put it up underneath the rafters in the basement, lagged it in, I put a grill, a register vent on top.
Air conditioning vent.
And he got bass, and so sitting at his couch, he had all the bass he needed from a bandpass enclosure that was vented through the floor up into his house. So even looking at it, if you ask me, well, Kip, do you like bandpass boxes? My answer would be, I'm not necessarily a fan, but I know they have their places. And that's how I think where most people get trapped is they think there's only one box that's perfect for everything, and they can't open up their mind to understanding that based on your goals, based on the environment that you're working in, based on the band of frequencies you're trying to accentuate, there's no perfect box. I would say I'll let John take that, that's probably the number one thing we as a company deal with is people want you to definitively tell them, do I build sealed? Do I build ported? Do I build bandpass? And the answer is, sure.
Yeah, all the above.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I did. I'm like, what ones should I build? I don't know, build them all. I'm like, good idea. I'm going to do that then. And here we are. Like,
hey, Lori kept you busy, and busy hands keep you out of trouble.
Usually.
That's exactly what I did, too. That was important. It was, my stepdad and my dad would help me out with buying sheets of material so I could be in the side yard cutting up and building speaker boxes rather than out goofing around being a bad kid.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and as you know, that kind of goes back to your question on tuning. I think what a lot of people don't realize is if you take and hold a woofer by its motor and just hold it out here in your hand, that's a completely unloaded motor structure. There's no resistive air spring. There's no tuning to help control the back force of the motor. There's nothing there to control it.
No isolation.
No isolation. It's completely unloaded. And if you're looking at any ported design, and that doesn't matter if you're talking a single bass reflex bandpass, a dual reflex bandpass, or a simple ported cabinet or vented cabinet, your tuning frequency bass doesn't just stop there, and it's really about a half an octave below that before you have to start worrying about limiting frequencies that go into that driver. So, for example, so if we're talking about a box that's tuned at 38 cycles, you know, half of that would be 18, 16, 16 thirds, so it'd be 18. 17 and a half. So you're looking at, you're not unloading that down until you get down to like 21 hertz.
Right.
So honestly, even a box that's tuned at 38 cycles, which is going to give you a lot of that rock and roll, a lot of that impact bass that you're going to be able to get at that little slightly higher tuning of around 38 to 40, it's still going to play bass content down to 21, 20 cycles. So I think sometimes people get this mentality that if I tune it at X frequency, it doesn't play anything but that frequency, or it's only useful at that frequency. And that ties in, I think, to what you're asking or going down that path. Is that's not correct. I mean, tuning a box, some people get hung up on, they think that it can only play at that frequency and there's nothing else useful on both sides, and that would be just as bad as saying a bandpass. Yeah, you know, if you build a bandpass box, it's only good for that bandpass frequency and there's nothing on your side. Well, it depends on what the roll-off is. It depends on what's going on there, and as you know, that's one of the issues I think that a lot of people have trouble understanding.
Yeah, and they don't really understand the roll-off for the different types of enclosures. So, you know, we start talking about 12 dB per octave roll-off on, you know, an infant baffle or a sealed box, and then you get a 24 in a vented box or bass reflex. You know, they don't realize that, you know, they can actually overlap, and, you know, a ported box may have a lot more output near the tuning frequency, but a sealed box is actually going to play lower, and you get really low in frequencies. It just depends on where they cross over in the different roll-offs. So they don't understand
like your
that.
F3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the F3 of the box, which is the 3 dB down point of the main tune of your enclosure. And so,
you know, it's almost like you read my mind, Bobby. Seriously, this wasn't planned, but if you will, Tim, when you get a chance, will you throw up onto our screen, just go ahead and cover John and I up, because they've seen enough of the guys with faces built for radio.
Yeah.
If you'll throw up their diagram, yes, sir, thank you very much. So, Bobby, thank you for leading into this, because I wondered how I was going to bring this up, and you led right into it. You walked right into it. So basically, from our standpoint here at Kicker, now, understand, we're not trying to tell people what they should or shouldn't do or how they shouldn't call things. We're just telling you from our standpoint here at Kicker, is basically start off at an infinite baffle. And John, why don't you walk them through briefly, just start an infinite baffle and go forward and tell us the benefits and what you get.
You know, for those of you guys that don't understand, infinite baffle is just basically isolating the front of the woofer from the back of the woofer with just a board. So you're going to mount a woofer to, you know, a flat board mounted up to the rear deck or up to the back seat. You're basically trying to seal the front wave from the back wave to make sure that they don't interfere with each other. And infinite baffle is, you know, extremely smooth response. I mean, you're basically only limited to the frequency response of the driver, so it's exceptionally musical, but it doesn't handle a lot of power and it doesn't have a lot of output. So with any type of enclosure, anything you do, there's going to be trade-offs. I mean, there's no one, like we talked, magic bullet, you know, magic box that does everything. You really have to decide what you want it to do, you know, to maximize your performance in that area. Do you want it extremely flat? Do you want to have a lot of output at a certain frequency for SBL? Do you want, you know, be loud with a small amplifier? Do you want it to be, you know, really deep and tight? You know, just, you really have to design the box for what you want it to do, and understand that it, you know, it's like tires on a car. You've got all season tires that do, you know, mud, rain, snow, dry pavement, pretty good. But, you know, it's not until you get to your, you know, your drift tires, your mud and snow tires, you know, your specialized tires that you really maximize that performance. So just remember that there is no one fix all. And the other thing I always pointed out to people, you know, when they're designing boxes, you know, wanting all the teal smalls and to design a box on a computer, is you're taking that box and you're putting it in a box, and that other box is your vehicle, and it's going to drastically change the tuning. So whatever, you know, the computer spits out that says, hey, this is what your box is going to sound like, probably not.
You know, something I want to chime into, I'm kind of going to skip to the end and we'll back up over this, but what you just said, John, and I got John and John here. I'm going to get confused. So we got Purple John, who's giving the thumbs up, and we got Bald John.
Yeah, we're both kind of that way.
But
how about gray and purple?
Gray and purple.
I got the gray.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah. But you know, if you look at a car, if you look at most any automobile that we're putting audio systems in, honestly, if you look at that bottom right diagram, which is called a series tune dual reflex bandpass, that's really what's going on in a car. I know a lot of people may not understand that, and John hit the nail on the head, and of course John got all excited, Mr. Purple John got excited, is that when you put an enclosure in an environment, and since we're really talking car-centric here, let's focus on a vehicle, is that's what's happening right there. Whether you're doing a sealed box, or you're doing a ported box, or you're doing a bandpass box, that series tune, if you can imagine that second port there that's aimed straight up, that's basically the windows in your car, or the door in your car, or any opening in your vehicle, is you're basically putting a tuned enclosure into your car, and it's going to change the tuning on it. I know back from my day, in my retail days, guys, well, why does my car sound better with the windows down or the windows up? Or why does my car sound better with the trunk open or the trunk closed? And the realities of those things is you're you're actually changing the tuning of that vehicle. You're changing the tuning where you sit in that vehicle based on opening and closing different orifices or areas in that vehicle.
Shorting it. And it's called shorting it out. Exactly. It's a circuit.
There you go.
It's all these things that are on here, how I look at them, sorry to interrupt, but these are all electrical circuits to me. These are all different types of filters. So if you, like the bandpass one, the series bandpass or whatever we look at, I'm looking at the series tuned one. If you short that port out, that's like rolling your windows up and you're tuning that front chamber in your car, right? So that would be a ported box with your windows rolled up. If you roll that window down, which where that port is, the loudest part inside that speaker box will be the bottom left-hand corner on my page, away from the port. It's the hot spot. If we flipped it around and put the port on the other side, that's an SPL vehicle. Usually they put the port on the opposite side of the microphone, and that's would be the loading. So that's exactly.
And so, and this is a great topic to bring up because John and I, of course, being old school, and maybe you guys can add some wisdom to this as to why people think this. As you move through, you go from an infant baffle, you move to a sealed or acoustic suspension, which is just a sealed box, which lets you have more control over the driver, dump more power in, give you some kind of a tuning if you want to. And then you get into a ported or a vented box where you're really tuning the output that, I'll throw, here's my Scrabble word for the day. Is it that port, that's called a Helmholtz resonator, folks. I know we all call them ports or vented enclosures, but it's actually a column of air of fixed mass that is vibrating back and forth. I know you can't see it, but air never leaves the box. It's not like air just whooshes out of the box and a whole bunch of more air whooshes back into the box. That air, that column of air is actually a cylinder of air that's contained that just moves back and forth.
Almost like a piston.
Like a piston, and vibrates in resonance to the frequency it's tuned to in that box. So keep that in mind. That's, like I said, that's my Scrabble word for the day. I just got 35 points, game over.
Well, yeah, just remember the tuning frequency of the port's doing all the work, too.
And then we move on to, and this is a touchy subject for me, so John looks like he's ready to go, so I'll let him take it first, but single reflex bandpass enclosures, which is what they've always been called in my world, why do people insist on calling them fourth orders?
Because it's a filter. That's what the type of filter it is. That's the roll off of the cue of the filter. So you're stacking filters. So you have first order, second order, third order. You can keep on going, and you can put these orders in different locations. But all it's doing is affecting the byproduct. The band. It's a bandpass. That's the filter that you're looking at. So it works with all the roll off features on how fast you want the roll off. If you want it super fast or a nice smooth roll off, it just depends on it. These are all designed to usually the EBP of the driver, because if you put a driver that has an improper EBP into an improper box, it's going to be loosey-goosey or too tight, and you're not going to get that happy medium that we're trying to do. But that's part of that filter aspect you need to put onto it. One thing I was going to throw on here, since we're talking about all these enclosures, is back in 2000, when I'm just going to throw out my old business, was Powered for Sound, and I started, and that's one main reason why I met that guy down there, is when it was when I was building snail shells and double shots, and my issue was with any of these enclosures that were out there in the car audio market and home audio. I was mainly focusing on home, was a super wide, efficient bandwidth that controlled the driver all the time with a low impedance. So the amplifier I wouldn't have any clipping happening. So I designed it's basically a transmission line that is also partially a ported enclosure, and it transitions between the two. So kind of like how a bandpass has two different separate frequencies with ports. Well, I'm doing it with quarter wave, and then when the quarter wave goes away, it turns into a super long ported enclosure. And then everything else below, where if you put it on a graph, you would never hear, or above that that frequency, to give you a wider bandpass. And then you can also get the sound off the front end of the driver. It's not sealed inside of an enclosure. You can listen for clipping, you can hear all that stuff, and get massive amounts of gain.
Right. And so here, now I'm going to throw the curveball back at you. This is the fun part. It's entirely possible to have a single reflex bandpass enclosure that's not fourth order.
It's say that one more time. You broke up right when you were talking.
It's entirely possible to have a single reflex bandpass. So if we look at that box on the bottom left, you could have one of those boxes and it doesn't measure as a fourth order.
Oh, it will be a fourth order. That's still a fourth order. It still has two filters. You have a filter on the front, and then you have the VB of the box on the back, which is controlling the driver.
Aren't you?
True, but now throw in your electronic crossover.
Well, yeah, but this is also part of the physics. So there's a happy medium. No, this is a really good. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people don't understand that. They I can take any speaker box program that's out there, Bassbox Pro or whatever, WinIS, and what it does, like if I use that because it's something weird I'm going to be building or testing, it gives me a starting point, a really good starting point.
Right.
And if you physically take everything off of that, and you're designing it for your little hatchback car, and then the guy who's your friend who wants another box just like you, but he has a convertible, and he's like, why am I not as loud as you? It's everything has to be designed around that aspect. And going back to what you guys were speaking of before, all these need to be designed around the driver, the vehicle, and I also kind of throw this in the curveball, but it doesn't really matter a lot. But the type of music that they do listen to, like if somebody says, I listen to a lot of home theater, stuff that goes down subsonic,
right.
I'll design around that, because there is frequencies, more in the higher frequencies, that you can't hear, but when they merge together, they make a harmonic that you can hear. So like when somebody says their tweeter only goes up to 15K, and I can't hear past 15K or 20K if you're younger, there's going to be notes that actually go up that could be recorded in that recording that will mix together and come down and make that harmonic. And that's what makes music sound real. That's why a piano sounds like a piano and stuff. And same thing with subwoofer.
Exactly.
Ultra low end, there's harmonics that happen that produce, rich, warm bass, and others that don't.
To tie into what you're going down that path, John, and it opens up a can of worms that we could talk about for hours, which is nice because we can come back for a second show, which is what I need. But when you talk about harmonics, I'll give a great example of what you're talking about there. It's probably an extreme example, but it shows what's going on there. There's obviously this debate that goes on daily, and I could be one of those participants, and John is, and I'm sure you guys as well, I can't hear a difference in an MP3 versus a CD or a WAV file, so it doesn't matter. It just doesn't make any difference. It's just there. And I've been one of those guys that I've told people I can hear the difference, and ironically, if I do those blind ABX tests, I usually score 90% or better. I can tell you which one's an MP3, and I can tell you which one's a WAV file. And it's not that someone's giving me the test in advance, it's just that if you listen and know what you're listening for, it's very distinct to hear what an MP3 is and what it isn't. And the biggest thing for me is when I listen to MP3 encoded music, I start getting what's called listener's fatigue way, way earlier than if I'm listening to an uncompressed WAV file. Now, what's interesting about this is for years people have debated, well, can you hear the difference? Can you not hear the difference? Does it matter? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I actually stumbled across, and I'm going to give him a shout out here. I know he doesn't follow this at all, but there's a gentleman who does a channel on YouTube called White Sea Studios. And what he did, which was one of the most interesting things, I'm actually ashamed of myself that I didn't think of it, because I'm one of those guys who's going, yes, it matters. It matters how much you compress your music. It matters what you do. The harmonics matter. Those are what gives you the air, and that gives you the presence of what's going on. And when you remove all those harmonics, coupled with the fact that they're taking everything up to as loud as it can play and removing dynamic range, it just sounds horrible. It causes listener fatigue. So what he did is he got permission. He had actually a full 24-bit 96 recorded track with an artist that he had a relationship with, and he went and pulled down the various recordings that were available on Apple Music and Amazon Music and Tidal, and these were all encoded using different methods. And then what he did, he didn't listen to every track. He simply lined all the tracks up on his recording software, and he did one minus the other one. And here's what's really cool. If I've got two tracks that are identical, and I do 1 minus 1, the result is 0, meaning I don't hear anything. If I subtract something from itself, the result is 0. So what he did is he subtracted the MP3 files of the various encoding methods from the original master file and then played that. He didn't play the original file, he played what the difference was, which if the files were identical, the difference would be nothing. You would hear nothing at all. And what you ended up hearing in all these examples were, there were some of these examples, you could actually sing along and hear the song, it's all there. The song is completely there in the subtraction. So the fact that there is harmonic content being removed from MP3s leads down that path of, well, whether you can or can't hear it is for you to decide, but the fact of it is subconsciously your brain is figuring it out. Your brain knows it's not there, and that's what caused a lot of this listener fatigue. And this can be coupled to exactly what you just said, which is when you're coupling drivers or doing things, you want to make sure that you're getting all that air and that presence in those harmonics, because that's how we enjoy music.
Exactly.
Music is an emotion. You know, and
so you opened up an interesting can there that I can literally talk about for 3.5 days around a fire with some cold beverages.
Oh,
so.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like even bringing that part up, like Bobby and I have spoke about, and I think Bobby was the first one who actually brought this up. When I had the Blazer and I would bring it over, I would do like I would have different setups, and I'd be like, okay, come and check this out, Bobby. You know, I did this, or I wouldn't even tell him. I'd just go and just do it and have him sitting there. And a lot of the times he actually noticed that I was using my phone transmitting the Bluetooth. And I was doing a lot of testing, so musical, but a lot of testing. The Blazer it would play super low. It would go down to 17 hertz. And when I would use the Bluetooth on my phone, and I think there were probably MP3s that I was getting, you know, it's rebase stuff. It might have been FLAC, I'm not sure, but still, it was going through Bluetooth, and how that worked out with my phone, okay, and to the Pioneer head unit that I had. The bass was like weaker. It was a different type of bass. It was like more mid-bassy. And then Bobby said, oh, just go direct. Don't do that. Just hook it up direct. So I just plugged it in, which I don't like doing, because if you unplug it while you're doing bass really loud, your speakers fly out of the box because, yeah. So, but once we did that, it was night and day. It was huge. I don't know if you remember that, Bobby, but that was like a huge thing. And I see that a lot, and sometimes I recommend it. So if somebody's like playing bass and they're doing lots of demos, I'm like, are you just doing Bluetooth? Why don't you just get something to plug that in and go direct, and you're going to hear big difference in gain, lower frequencies, and usually you do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, you know, doing, you know, a system for someone, you know, and you show it to them, you know, with a FLAC file, WAV file, you know, something uncompressed, and they absolutely love it. 2 weeks later, they come back, my system doesn't sound right. Let's go out and listen to it. And they pull out their phone and they start Bluetooth, and it's like, there's your problem. It's not your system, it's your source, your medium.
Yep.
And people just don't get it. And if they've never heard what music is supposed to sound like, they don't know. You know, so
they don't know. What's interesting, obviously, is John, the high performance stuff that you're into and appreciate and enjoy. And then, obviously, Bobby, your boxes are all about high performance, high build quality, and getting the most out of the performance of the driver, whatever you're designing it for. You know, people tend to focus a lot on the gear these days, but they've lost track of the most important thing, which is what is the source that I'm feeding this gear with? Because you can have gear that's all capable of playing a 10, playing a 10, playing a 10, playing a 10, but if you're using a source material that's only a 6, your system's never going to be any better than a 6.
That's what you get. That's
what you're going to get out of it. And it's not that I'm anti-MP3. I mean, I use a lot of stuff, but I tend to use more of the high-res stuff that's available, whether it's from Amazon HD or Ultra HD, the stuff they do, or Tidal, the lossless compression. I'm still that nut job. I can't cruise the aisles anymore because they don't sell them anymore, but I'm still that guy. I'll click on Amazon and I'm buying CDs, and I do put them into a portable media player for me, but I rip them as total lossless files and carry them with me, because I don't care if I'm carrying around 30,000 songs at mediocre quality. I'd rather carry around 6,000 songs that are of great quality, so that when I'm demoing any gear, no matter what it is, whether you're listening to bass, you're listening to mid, you're listening to highs, the quality of the musical source you're using does make a difference. And I'm going to get on the John Nolte bandwagon here. Please get off of Bluetooth if you're listening to anything and you're looking from a quality. Even if all you're worried about is playing ultra low frequency and moving air, you're going to do a better job if you get away from Bluetooth.
Well, yeah, it goes along with like the boxes.
out there too.
Oh, I'm sorry. It kind of goes along with the boxes. Like if you build a speaker box and it has a F3 that can go down to 23 hertz, and you spend all this money and all this time, and you have all this great equipment, and then you hook it up, and it doesn't play that. That sucks. I mean, you all these things add up. There's a stacking, error, I guess you could say. So if you can get all these things, you're ahead of the game.
I couldn't agree with you any more on that, John. I mean, the things we've talked about tonight, it's obvious that we need to have you guys back for multiple sessions going on in the future, because there's a lot of great topics here that I think we could talk about that I think you'd enjoy. Bobby, John, you guys willing to come back for another show at some point?
Absolutely. I would.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, I definitely want to get you guys back on, and I'm not rushing you out the door. We still got a few minutes here. I just wanted to see if you guys are on board for another one, because this is fun. It's great talking to guys who have a passion for what they do. It really ties into, Steve's had an opportunity to be here, which is kind of great. I don't think, John, have you been here at the place? I don't think you've been to Kicker.
No, I haven't. No, that'd be awesome.
We need to get you guys out for a tour sometime, because something, maybe he can chime in with some stuff. But no, Steve's been here and been through the place. And the one thing you can say about Kicker is once you walk through the building and you meet the people here and you see the facilities we have here and what we do on site here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, we are a very dedicated group of passionate people about making high performance gear that anyone can afford and get great sound in their cars. And we don't just grab a product from China and put our name on it. Everything we do is research, design, developed here. We own our own tools. We are a design house. We build some things here in the U.S. Unfortunately, there's not a brand out there that can look at you in the eye and be honest and say we build everything here in the U.S., because you just can't today.
It's not possible.
It's not possible, especially if you're using Neo. If you're using Neo and anything from a tweeter to a woofer, you're not building here in the USA. Nope. You're definitely sourcing the Neo from somewhere else, because there's another country that they won the geographical jackpot on Neo, and it wasn't us. But that's the thing about it.
Right up until just a couple weeks ago, everything Gately Audio was made was in Sacramento, California. But now we have a couple of new products that are manufactured overseas. And otherwise, I was like, wait a minute, I build that? No, I don't.
Hey, we just have to be honest about it. You can't. The thing that
we worked our butts off and designed it right here, but
there you go.
Yeah, our subwoofers are manufactured overseas, but our boxes, every one of them is built in Sacramento, California, and it's a lot of fun.
And that's really cool, and maybe something that I can get you to want to do at some point, John, is it would be really interesting to get you back for another show where we actually do kind of a walkthrough of your facility, because I know you could get on a phone and we could walk through, and maybe we could actually see when you're CNCing or doing what you're doing to design and build some boxes. Maybe you can take us through a run and we could get a live video on this show some night.
That would be a lot of fun. I could absolutely do that. Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Nice and clean. It's a little less covered in sawdust than it normally is. I know we do a good job. It's not pretty clean, but I think if we're doing a live stream through Gately Audio and running the CNC, I think I'll polish up the CNC a little bit. But I absolutely would love to do that. Yeah, I think it'll be a good time.
Real quick, and go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. Hey, Tim, while Steve's talking, will you bring up that last slide I gave you that goes over the different enclosures that I put together? Just put it up when you can, man. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well,
go ahead, Steve.
This might actually be kind of what I was getting into enclosure-wise, but one thing I wanted to touch on that these two guys might be able to shine a little more light on is most people in our community, or a lot of them, they want to put as many stubs as possible, the biggest and as many as possible in their car, thinking that it's going to
keep us in business, right?
Output. And I've been guilty of that. Like, I wanted to run the 915s, and Hunter convinced me that the 912s is going to work better. So maybe they could touch on that a little bit, just to put to rest that just not always that the more you have, better it's going to sound, or the louder it's going to be. And that really comes down to just enclosures need a certain amount of volume to perform correctly with the drivers. And maybe it's just something they could simplify for people to put that to rest. There you go, Bobby.
What do you got, Bobby?
Let me take this one, because I get this every day. Every day.
Right? I hear it too from him.
I get the guys that contact me, and they're like, so I see you got 4/8 in that in that truck box, can you put 4 10s? And often my answer is like, we can maybe do a sealed configuration of that, but it probably won't be as loud or sound as good. And they go, why? Because we're making sacrifices beyond sacrifices that we've already made.
Subs.
I see you have 4 8s. Can you put 6? You have 6 6.5. Can you put 6 8s or 6 10s? Or I mean, and I've had some like really wild, and it's like, I think if that was a really good idea, it seems really no brainer if it was, right? Like if that was a really good idea, we might have thought of that a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that you can, take a speaker and put it in too small of a box and it's going to sound awful. You go the next size driver down in the same size box, it's going to sound phenomenal. And it's all about the airspace and making the enclosure work with the woofer. I mean, they've got to work together. And so many people, like you say, just think bigger is better, and like we were talking about before with magnets. Oh, the bigger the magnets, the better the speaker. Well, that's not true at all, because you got different strength of the magnets, you got, different, gaps in the voice coil. I mean, there's so many other features and, factors that play into that. And, just real quick, I know we're running short on time.
Oh, we're good. Go ahead. We're going to wrap it up here quick, but we're good.
Something interesting that we're talking about, recordings and whatnot. For those of you guys out there, if you've never done this, Google something called the loudness wars. And that's where, back in the 70s and 80s, they decided just recording it louder is better. It sounds better, and it absolutely is not. There's some CDs out there that, some bands that have CDs and, even albums that are so distorted you can't listen to them. But some engineer thought, hey, louder's better. Well, it's not. It's just like, bigger is better. It's not necessarily better. So, especially when you get, louder and louder, you lose dynamic range, and then you lose all that realism, that emotion. It's just noise at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, just strictly noise.
And, something that goes, since what you brought up there, Bobby, I have to add this because it's an old school story. I mean, this goes back into, I'll tell you how long ago I was installing and selling gold letter kickers. So that tells you how long ago it was, if that gives you an idea. And I had a kid come in and he had an S10 truck. And so we're talking back today, the S10 truck that had maybe this much room behind the seat. You know what I'm talking about? The old original. There was no room behind this seat for anything, much less what he wanted to do. And he insisted he wanted a pair of 15s. He said, I want a pair of comp 15s. I want a pair of comp 15s. And I kept telling him, brother, you don't want a pair of comp 15s. There's not enough room behind that seat for them to sound good. Well, they'll fit. They'll fit. They'll fit. I was like, you don't understand. I'm telling you, there's not enough air volume so that woofer can perform properly. No, they'll fit. I know, I measured, they'll fit. And so, against my judgment, he pushed and pushed and pushed. I built him a box, and I put 2 C15s behind the seat of an S10. He had to roll the seat up 4 clicks for it to fit. But he had his 2 15s behind the seat of that truck. And he was back in a couple days. When the car left the shop, I listened to it. It sounded horrible. I mean, it was just horrible. Yeah. And I knew it was horrible, and I knew it was horrible before I built the box because I knew this was not right.
The customer's always right.
The customer, I let him be right. And so
money talks.
The kid came back, and he's like, man, he says, this just doesn't sound good. These woofers suck. He starts going down that whole path, and I explained to him, I said, listen, I told you you don't have enough room for a pair of 15s. I said, the box is yours. I said, you own the box. I don't want the box back. I'm not refunding you the box. There's nothing I'm doing for the box or the labor for the box. I said, but if you will let me build you another box for a pair of 10s, I said, let me build the right box. Let me put a pair of 10s in there. I said, I'll give you full credit on the 15-inch woofers, but the box is yours. Sell it to a buddy, take it out for firewood. It sounds like a great thing to take out to the dead end road where people party and just light it up. Do what you want with the box. You'll pay me for another box, you'll pay the labor for the new box, and you'll pay for the new subs, and I'll give you credit on the 15s, and I guarantee you it's going to sound better. Well, there's just no way. They're 10s. There's no way 10s can sound. I said, I wouldn't be telling you this if I didn't believe in it and I know it myself. Just trust me. And so I did. I built him a new box. I put in a pair of C10s on the same amplifier, the same everything, and this vehicle just came alive. It actually had some low frequency. It had some impact. It sounded fantastic, and it was way louder than what the 215s were. And so it ties right into what you're saying, Bobby, is sometimes people's eyes and what they've decided they want to have doesn't fit the volume requirements of what they really need. And that's where they need to listen to experts like you or John or even Steve or hopefully this guy here when they tell tell you, you don't have enough room to put in what you want because you're going to get better performance if you put in this. And that ties directly into what you're saying about guys saying, well, 4 6.5 sound this good, let's do 6 or let's do 8.
It's all about educating the customer, and it's the difference between an actual salesperson that qualifies the customer and a clerk that just takes their money and runs.
True.
Yeah, like one little short little thing on this subject, because I've told Bobby this multiple times, and I've, when I had my enclosures that I was manufacturing a long time ago, I would get kind of the same kind of questions, and what I would have to tell them is break it down to them like musical instruments. So let's look at a violin. There's small violins, there's medium ones, and there's a cello. So if they could take a violin, this is all on mechanics, not the electrical aspects, but the speaker box, the resonating enclosure for those strings, which is just like a speaker cone. There's tension on them and everything. So if you take a little violin, why isn't there a small little violin that sounds like a cello? Because of physics, and you want to be able. So when you take like 2 drivers that are very large and you try to put them into that small little violin, they're not going to be able to produce those frequencies. You can dump a ton of power into them, but those frequencies that violin's for, those frequencies are what those speakers are going to try to produce better. So that'd be like 60 hertz, let's say, instead of the 30 hertz. So
like if you were to take the body off that violin and put it on a cello, it's not all of a sudden going to sound like a cello. It's still going to play.
Or if you take the strings off a bass guitar and put it on a violin, it's not going to sound like a bass guitar.
That's exactly right, Steve.
Yep.
There you go.
That's exactly right.
That's a good reference. That actually makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if I have a quick moment, if I go back to like my truck boxes, I have refined the enclosure design where I've already done the squeeze in as much as I can. I'm taking 8-inch drivers that would perform most efficient in a cubic foot of air, and I'm squeezing them into 0.6 cubic feet. And I'm walking this delicate fine line of port area and port length to get the maximum volume I can, and still have enough port area that I'm not going to cause port mock, and getting tune frequency low enough that I'm going to get good low bass extension, and make this combination of drivers that can handle a truckload of power. I got guys with 4 8-inch subwoofers and 5,000 watts, and it's like, yes, we are making small sacrifices of tonality, but what and lots of a sacrifice in efficiency. We're throwing efficiency all the way out the window because it's like, I got alternators and I got an extra lithium battery and I got everything else I ever need for that, and it's going to cost a lot of money because I got to buy fancy, crazy 8-inch subwoofers that'll handle all this power, and then you feed all that power into it, and it's like a small gain that you can hear, and anything you can hear is huge, right? So I could take an almost identical sized box and put 2 8s in it and have it be just a little bit quieter, but you could hear it with your ears. And most of these guys that have these $85,000 trucks, they would prefer to make that sacrifice of efficiency and financial impact and go, I'll take a big loss of efficiency and a small loss of tonality to get a nice big jump of output, because I want it to be as loud as it possibly can be. And that's why we have these 4/8 boxes, and guys go, hey, what's your enclosure volume? And I go, oh, it's 2.7 or 2.8 internal, depending on what drivers you have. And they, can I put a Sundown X in that? And I'm like, yep, you can. We've done it, verified, it works like a champ. I know that it's way below what the enclosure minimum recommended is, but you can put all the power to that and not be worried about mechanically damaging those subs. There's so much compression in that box. And that's why we're at the edge. We've reached the limit. You can't ask for more out of these small spaces sometimes. And that's where we've ended up with this kind of product, and why sometimes the questions that people ask are almost unanswerable in an email or in a simple thing. So sometimes an opportunity like this to talk to you guys and say, here's this magic fine line of everything you can get out of that silly little tiny ridiculous space, and that's what, you know, myself, with help from John and many customers that have turned me loose on projects like this, have gotten me to create a project that performs in the way it does in my whole product line. So.
Right, and you know, I love going back to the way John puts it. Basically, what you just described, Bobby, was the same thing John said earlier. Is you're trading mechanical efficiency, and you're going to make up the difference in doing a lot more electrical. I don't want to call it inefficiency, but you're going to throw a lot more electrical into it to make up for what you gave up on mechanical. And mechanical is doing that fine tuning that you're talking about, which John is obviously on the same page with, is trying to get the most out of a driver that you can via the enclosure, not trying to do it by throwing a ton of power at it. And you can do it that way. I mean, Steve Irby, we have discussions about it here all the time where, you know, you can put a speaker in a small sealed box, and with the right amount of excursion capability, the right amount of power, and the right amount of DSP, you can make that speaker play any frequency you want and sound any way you want, but it's going to take a lot of excursion, a lot of power to make it happen. It's a whole lot easier to do it mechanically and build the right size box to begin with.
Right.
Just like when SPL competitors, small box, tons and tons of power, and that's, you know, it's more output. I mean, obviously there's a lot more into it than just that, but you'll see these guys with these super high output SPL cars. They don't have huge sealed sections or huge ported sections. Everything's small with a shit ton of power. Excuse my language.
Right.
But,
no.
but for that reason,
you were worried about me.
Yeah. That was the first one.
I haven't dropped one F-bomb the whole time.
Bobby gets the gold star today, not you, Steve.
Bobby was the good kid.
You know, real quick, I just wanted to touch on this because, you know, we've kind of talked about enclosures and stuff. Obviously, as a company, Kicker, we make raw drivers, and people are, you know, excited about them, and they do custom build boxes all the time. And of course, the L7X, which there's a lot of excitement for that coming out, and we can't wait to get this out into the market. But we do design and have available a very wide range of enclosures that fit, that are ready to go, pre-made solutions to fit, and they're all designed around that premise that John, and that same premise that Bobby, you're kind of talking about, is we try to maximize, give the most performance out of these pre-made units that you can get within the usable box volumes that people can actually use in their vehicles that don't eat up their entire vehicle. And if I can get John's help a little bit, I mean, hey, throw that picture back up real quick, Tim, if you don't mind. Thank you. You know, starting at the top left, the first two are actually our downfiring enclosures. It's our TRTPs. Is that right, John?
Yep, that is correct.
And those use a passive radiator. I mean, the thing that kind of made Kicker famous in the beginning, which was that original Kicker box that had the passive radiator. These are using the same thing. And the passive radiator, it takes the place of a port. The cool part about a passive radiator is it allows you to have more control over tuning without having any port noise, because basically you're tuning the weight of that drone or that passive radiator to be your resonant mass load. We do a ton of those. We do the one next to it is actually the truck version of the downfiring. Of course, L7, we do comp VRs, and you get in the bottom, of course, L7s. The three at the bottom are very unique, and I just wanted to point these out because these are three products that are kind of like the rock stars of our brand. They're not, well, except for the quad box, it's extremely loud. But you know, the QB8, which is the second one from the left there on the bottom, that's actually an L7-8 driver. It's in a very small extruded aluminum enclosure with a passive radiator on the other side. The enclosure is only like 9 1/4 by 9 1/4 by 10.
Yeah, and it's like 0.24 cubic foot.
Yeah, it's like 0.24 cubic foot, but it's designed, it's not an SPL monster, but for someone who wants deep, tight, accurate bass. I mean, that thing is tuned at, if I remember Aaron telling me, Craig, I think it's tuned to like 30 or 31. Yeah. So it will get down there and plow and play with the best of them. It's an overlooked driver that sounds fantastic, and the design and build quality on it. I mean, it's an extruded aluminum enclosure. It's very unique.
It's very heavy.
It is very heavy. And then you go to the other side, that's actually our TBs, and that is actually an extruded type product that you can get in an 8, 10. We do those in 12s or just 8 and 10?
Just 8 and 10.
Just 8 and 10.
2 and 4 on.
2 and 4 on. The great things about those is they're basically waterproof. You can put them in a Jeep, you can put them in a boat, you can put whatever you need. They're not going to worry about water damage.
Put them on your patio.
Put them on your patio, yeah, that's actually great. And then, of course, the one in the middle, or the one between those, is the quad box. Which, Tim, will you go to the camera that's actually on the quad box, if you don't mind? If you can flip to that view that's actually down on the quad box. And, you know, we don't have a camera guy back here today, so you just have to put up with this one view that we can get. But this kind of touches on, and I know it's a lot of things that Bobby and John and Steve would all focus on, but we've gone over this. But, you know, CNC window bracing, we have corner gussets in there. Those corners on the boxes are actually solid wood. That's not just a radius piece or a curved wood. That's actually a solid block of wood that's rounded over, that's on those corners and at the port. It's
a hell of a router bit.
Right. It's a very overbuilt box for us. And so this is, also? Does it have a what?
Is that how the port is as well? Is the port also?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know
yes, that is a solid block of wood that's been machined for that radius. It's not curved, it's a solid block. And so this is kind of the first box that we as a company have come out with. It's probably, everyone's got their opinion on what pretty is. I will say that stained wood has a certain appeal to it that is much prettier than just carpeting. But obviously for us, as in a pre-manufactured product like that, we are looking for durability, blending into the rear of a car, whatever. So obviously we go with a carpet. But everyone who's seen one of these in person, you know, the build quality is top notch. And it's almost an homage to say that we got a builder like Bobby here who builds stuff that of this caliber or better. And now we kind of look at going, this is our version of something that we can produce for the masses, that they can get great bass. If you followed any of the videos on the quad box, I mean, it's 150 dB basically out of the box in a vehicle for a customer. So it's $1,500 ready to go, and you've got 150 dB bass, but it is a quality box built out of birch. It's not built out of MDF. I mean, all of our other boxes are built out of MDF. Everyone builds them out of MDF, but this is our first foray into doing kind of a higher end box. And so, you know, since this whole episode's on enclosures and design, I just want to kind of touch on the range of boxes we make. We have a ton of loaded enclosures that are ready to go, that anyone can get great sounding bass, and you don't need 5,000 watts to get great sounding bass in your vehicle. Now, if you're looking for 165 dB of it, that's a different conversation, and we need to get Bobby or we need to get John involved, because that's a totally different thing to go down that path.
Yeah, we kind of like to call that perfect bass every time. I mean, the same engineer that designed the speaker designed the enclosure, so they're designed to work together. And you know, I know you guys have been building boxes a while. I think I've been building speaker boxes for 40 plus years. I can't duplicate our enclosures for the price and the time. I mean, they're really a awesome value for someone that wants a good quality enclosure that sounds good, that looks great, and it's going to perform and last.
Yeah, and that kind of ties back to what you were saying, John. What you're talking about, Bobby, is, you know, it's trying to get the most performance out of the given parameters, and sometimes you got to give a little bit of this to get something that you want. And it's refreshing to hear you guys, you know, on a daily basis what you're doing. You know, you're dealing with those same realities. I think that's pretty cool.
I like seeing you guys are using passives in the designs where you can't fit a physical port like that little box that you're talking about. If you wanted to tune that really low, the port would be hanging out. It'd turn into like a transmission line. You'd get like all these weird harmonics. Put a passive radiator on it. Now it's not something that's for SPL, of course, but it is a design that, you know, that's a home audio thing for me, you know, back in the day even too. But using the passive is like really cool to see that you guys are actually implementing and still implementing that design and your guys' stuff. It's cool.
Right. Talk about that home subwoofer passively, if you guys remember the Sunfire.
Hey, Sandy, if you will, there's a comment there from a Biggie 2316. It's like the second or third one up from the bottom. Could you put that up on the screen? Yeah, throw that one up. That's a great question. Does the quad box work with the Q class? I'm gonna answer this question a little bit differently. This box could work with the Q class drivers, so if you wanted to put L7S or L7Q in this box, you could. And people have often asked this, well, why didn't you do the quad box with L7S or with Q class drivers? And this is really what it boils down to. It's in its most simplest form. L7R is our entry level, Kicker's entry level, square subwoofer. It's a very efficient driver. If you're familiar with the history of Kicker, how it goes along, we used to make a driver quite a few years back called the L5. And that driver, it lived its life, it was end of life, it was terminated, and went away. This is basically the rebirth of the L5 subwoofer. We call it the L7R. It is a very efficient subwoofer. It doesn't take a lot of power to get loud, and it also weighs a whole lot less than a Q-class driver. Yeah. So when you take a box that's built to this caliber, and I'm sure Bobby can throw you in there, when you start building boxes out of 3/4 inch, 10-ply plywood, birch plywood, they even though it's lighter than MDF, you start doing double baffles on the front, double baffles on the back, you do your window bracing inside, you start down all up, it starts adding weight and it gets pretty heavy.
You start adding 40-pound woofers.
Start adding 40-pound woofers, and makes it even heavier, and there's these things called shipping requirements that you want to live within. But the reality is, by going with the L7R in this prefabricated and ready to go, it allows you could literally put a 1200 watt amplifier on this box and have very enjoyable bass in your car. If you wanted to start with a single 1200 or a single 1800, you could do that and run the whole box. And then as you got more money or you decide you want more, you could add another 1200 or another 1800, and now you would be doubling your power and get more out of the box. Or you can start right out of the gate, and all you need to run the box is a single 2400 watt amplifier. The beauty to this box is that under musical conditions, driving down the street, if you had stock electrical with a decent high output alternator from the factory, and I know it seems like an oxymoron, but most cars today come with about 100 to 115 amp alternator on them because of all the electronics that are on the car to begin with. As long as you got a decent battery up front and you're playing music, you could probably get by with just adding a single battery to that system, and you've got a daily driver vehicle that without a lot of money on the electrical side, getting you lots of output because we built the box for efficiency and we use drivers that are very efficient to get you there.
And piss off a lot of neighbors.
And we'll do that if you want it to. So that's really in a nutshell when it comes down to what the quad box is it will get loud. I noticed in here from the feed, I think it was Robert or Brandon, they're both in here, but one of them said that the boxes they've been playing with, these getting in vehicles, they're doing 154s at 47 hertz. That's the peak frequency in the vehicles they're dealing with, which are SUV vehicles. The box is tuned at 31, so it plays down low, it plays down deep, it sounds fantastic. But that's why we use the L7R, is because it allows us to make a fairly lightweight, by lightweight, about 168 pounds, I think, shippable box. It's ready to go. It's got terminal cups on it. You just hook an amp up to it and you're good to go. If you're so inclined to want to buy one, and then if you wanted to put in L7Ss or L7Qs, could you? Yeah, that's something you could work out with your dealer or wherever you purchase your kicker product. You could do that. Just keep in mind, you're going to have to dump a whole lot more power into it with S's or Qs. Yeah. Because now you're losing the efficiency of the L7R, so you're going to put more than 2,400 watts into that to get up to having more or the same output as what the L7Rs do.
If you had more power, especially with the Q series, it will play much louder.
Right.
I mean, that woofer really has the maximum excursion of any of the woofers we have currently in production, not counting that one.
Yeah, this is a different animal.
That's off the table at the moment. Well,
it's hanging on the edge of the table. It's not quite off, but with that said, if you guys would hang around, we actually want to announce some winners tonight. Would you guys hang around for that?
Sure.
Oh yeah,
all right.
Definitely, 100%.
Let's give some stuff away.
Let's give some stuff away. Bill, you got our winners ready to go? He must, because it's just magically appeared up on the screen. Winner number 6 is Seth T. in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Seth T. in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You are a winner. Do what?
Pretty sure that's where Travis used to live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before he moved to Des Moines. But anyways,
maybe he's not. Okay, so that's and so Seth, what you've won. And hang on here. What you need to do is, Seth, I hope you're in the room. You need to send an email to social@kicker.com and claim your prize. What you've won is a Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt. That's the ones we give away. You can only get exclusively here on the show. If you respond to social@kicker.com right now, I'm going to also give you a set of EB200 earbuds to go along with that. So you've already won the t-shirt.
The ones you've worn?
Yeah, the ones you're wearing too.
Figures.
And if you'll reply right now, get into your email, type a response to social@kicker.com and give us your shirt size, give us your information where to send it to. We're also going to send you a set of EB200 earbuds. That's your perk for being tuned in and watching. So get that email out right now. Bill, who's winner number 5? Winner number 5 is Marcy P. of, I cannot even say that, John, Susquehanna?
Sure.
I think it's Susquehanna, PA. If anyone in the panel would like to have another chance at butchering up that name, please feel free to take the role from me. I'm totally good with that.
You're doing a great job.
Marcy P., you're a winner of one of these Kicker Unmasked Live event t-shirts as well. You can see it kind of behind my left shoulder right here. And you've won one of those. If you will reply right now to social@kicker.com with your information, shipping information, you're also going to win a set of these EB200 earbuds. That's your reward for being tuned in right now, emailing right now. We're going to include you a set of these as well. Winner number 4, Bill? Nick F. in Jasper, Georgia. Nick F. Jasper, Georgia, you're winner chicken dinner. You won a Kicker Unmasked Live event t-shirt as well. Social@kicker.com is the email. Reply right now with your information, and you will also get a set of these EB 200 earbuds, and we use them here on the show. Not that I'm trying to just give a plug out for them, but we have to have a way to hear our guests who come on the show. Otherwise, it'd be John or me or whoever talking to dead air. We wouldn't know what we were saying to whom. And these are actually hooked up via Bluetooth. We get the feed from the studio. They work fantastic. They sound great for music. I saw someone chime in. It was actually Robert Hi-Fi Vega. He has a set of these, and he thinks they're nice products, so I guess that's a pretty good shout out. So winner number 4. I
commend you. You did a much better job of pronouncing the name of that town.
I did. It was easier than Susquehanna or whatever I messed up over there. So that's winner number 4. Winner number 3, Bill, if you don't mind, is William L. in Pinellas Park, Florida. I think I got that right.
I'll give you that one.
William L., Pinellas Park, Florida. You've also won a Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt. Now keep in mind, these Unmasked Live t-shirts, the only way you can get one of these is by being tuned into the show and winning these through some of the giveaways we do. They're not going to be available on the website. You can't purchase one. You could probably take one off someone wearing one down the street, but that's between you and them. I'm not for violence. Don't steal their shirt.
Or if they broke into the building here.
Oh yeah, I guess that could happen too. But you have won a t-shirt, but if you will respond right now to social@kicker.com with your information, shipping, and size, we're also going to include for you a set of these EB 200 earbuds. If you don't reply before the end of the show or a few minutes after, you'll get the shirt, but I'm going to take the EB 200s home for me. John, tell us who winner number 2 is. Maybe?
Oh, you waiting for me to?
Yeah, you do it.
Michael W. in Loganville, Georgia. So Michael W., chime on in.
Michael W., if you are a winner, Loganville, Georgia, please, it's social@kicker.com. Give us your shipping information, shirt size. Get that to us right now in the next few minutes. You not only won the t-shirt, but we're going to give you a set of these EB 200 earbuds as well so you can have some great Kicker sound on the go. And last, but certainly not least, is going to be winner number uno. John, who is it?
The final winner is Matthew S. in Dover, Delaware.
Dover, Delaware. Hey, I know someone from Dover. His name's Ben.
Ben D. Over?
Never mind. I thought it was a good joke. Anyhow, Matthew S. in Dover, Delaware.
And you guys are worried about me dropping F-bomb.
What can we say? You just can't keep him under chains or under wraps. It just he always gets out.
I was good for a long time. I was really good for a really long time, Bobby. I mean, you're a good positive influence on me, but I can only go so far. So
it's only human.
Please, if you're one of those 6 winners, if you will get your information to social@kicker.com. Get it. We need it within the next 72 hours so you can claim your prize. If you don't claim your prize in 72 hours, hey, guess what? We're going to give it away to somebody else
next week.
But if you'll reply now, in the next few minutes, maybe even up to an hour after the show, we're not going to just ground you. But if you'll reply ASAP, I will not only let you win your t-shirt, but I'm going to get you a set of these EB 200 earbuds. And as I've jokingly told people before, we love giving away things here, so please claim the prizes. We were actually a little bit worried about our grand prize winner on the quad box. He took forever to reply. And
how is that possible?
That's why we're telling people it's time to reply. You won your prize. Let's get it out the door. So anyhow, thanks for playing, everyone. We are going to do drawings like this and have fun on an ongoing basis, so we hope you appreciate that. The shirts are only available here on the Kicker Unmasked Live weekly show, so you got to tune in, got to watch for the different ways we're going to give these away. With that being said, I always kind of
we did have fun doing this.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, always.
We always try to keep the show to about 90 minutes. And I know we ran a little bit long tonight. And the thing is, in all honesty, I know we could probably go another 90 minutes, and you guys would probably stay tuned in. I've been watching the counter, and no one seems to be leaving. But I do like to keep the show about 90 minutes. We are going to reach out. John, we'd love to have you come back as a guest on another show. Would you be up for that?
Oh, 100%.
I want to get you back. It's a great time. I think what we may have to do is get you back as single guys. That way we can spend more time with you, focusing on you, because you all have great stories and things to talk about what you're doing, so maybe we'll do that. Steve said that you guys wouldn't talk at all, and it would be good if I had 2 of you because I could barely fill 30 minutes. Steve, you lied.
Yeah, no, I'd never said that.
I know. I got to play with you some anyway. Yeah. And Bobby, I appreciate it, man. You kept it PG-13 for just about the whole show. Thank you, sir.
I did good, except for you and Steve. Yeah, I would love to come back on. I had a great time, and there's so much that we can talk about with boxes and woofers and everything else. So, hopefully someday you guys drag me out there to visit the Kicker facility. And
I think so.
I would love to attend that. So.
I'll tell you what, that's actually in the back of my mind, and if I did that, I'd actually like to drag all three of you here in the window, get you all out here in a group and do a tour of this thing, have some fun, go out and break some bread with you and have a couple meals. Once you go through the place, you get to meet the rest of the people here. Trust me, they're better than John and I, so we're actually the bottom of the barrel. It goes up from here, so you don't have anything
It can
to
only
worry
go
about.
up from here.
Yeah, we got faces built for radio, but we'll get on TV anytime you ask us to. And then last but not least, Steve, man, Mr. Barber, thank you for all you do behind the scenes. I appreciate your help in getting these guys on the show tonight, and I am really looking forward to seeing what you're going to do with this build. Are you officially calling it Move Air 2? Is that what you're calling it?
I mean, it's still just Move Air.
Okay.
It's probably the 4th version or so. Between the equipment and stuff, this is the 2nd version for Enclosure change. But yeah, what I want to do, and we've talked about this a little bit, because we have a few kicker subs sitting in our shop. And once I finish the doors and get them fully foamed out and back on the car, get the side plexi, everything put in, we're going to have a little fun with one of your 15s and see what we could do off our test bench. We've got 4 1800s on our test bench, so we should be able to put those to use, build a nice little SPL tube or something, square tube, and throw it in there and see what kind of numbers we could bust up with just a single 15 or a single 12 that we have sitting around the shop.
That'd be fun.
I think
Looking forward to it, man.
Break 60 quite easily. So.
And Steve, trust me, when I say we're closer to getting you teal small parameters that you want to have, we were involved in some listening tests just yesterday on some of the things you and I have discussed on the L7X, and we are getting real close. So look forward to some teal smalls. If anybody in here is going to get them first, it's going to be Steve Barber. I'm just going to straight up tell you, the first guy to get teal smalls will be Steve Barber, and then everybody else can have a shot at him.
Because they can all hit him up.
Yeah, you can hit up Steve. We'll give him to Steve, then you hit up Steve and give him something to do.
My message to you, my PMs are going to be flooded now.
Mr. John Myers, a pleasure as always. Thank you for being here tonight.
Always fun, anytime.
We will definitely have you back. So, gentlemen, I do want to wish everyone a very happy New Year. It's the first show of the season, 2021. We are going to try to cram another 50-plus shows into this year, so we got our work ahead of us. Hopefully we can get great guests like John and Bobby and Steve to come on back and join us in the future, because we'd love to have you. But until then, as always, I'm Kip, and for all the employees here at Stillwater Designs or Kicker in the heart of USA, Stillwater, Oklahoma, we wish you a great evening. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time, right here on Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Hope to see you then.
That same bat time, same bat channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
See you guys.